Welcome to 561 Music. My name's Ben.
And I'm Hector.
How are you, dude?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm glad to see you finally rocking the pork pie on the podcast.
Yeah, man. It's been a long road getting comfortable in my pork pie, but I think I'm digging it now. So
no, it's a good look. I used to always wear one in my 20s, but then for some, I don't know why, it just stopped suiting me.
Yeah, I'm not in my 20s, man. So.
Well, the thing is, I think people sort of grow in and out of pork pies. I think you've grown into it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I grew out of it somehow. I don't know how.
It's been a lot of years since I've worn one, so I've been getting comfortable with it now. So.
Absolutely,
so
man.
it's good. Yeah,
it's
it's
good.
good.
Dapper Dan. So we got some pretty interesting announcements.
I would say some pretty downright amazing announcements, man.
Yeah, dude.
I think it's about time. It's that time to talk about the festival.
Absolutely.
And the festival is 100% absolutely unequivocally official. It is happening. It is happening.
It's so exciting. It's the first time I've organized gigs before, but nothing on this scale.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
So it's going to be at Matthews Brewing, and we definitely want to thank David over there for hosting and everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be April 2nd.
That's
That
it.
is a Saturday.
Yep.
And it is going to be from noon until basically midnight.
Yep.
Or until they kick us out of there, whichever comes first.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hopefully midnight comes first.
Yeah. So
pretty awful otherwise.
As of the I was thinking maybe we'd go later than that. Not before. They're not going to kick us out before. That would be terrible. As of the time that this podcast drops and everybody's listening to it, as they're listening to our voices. Hopefully, fingers crossed, the website will be ready.
Yeah.
The website will be 561musicfestival.com or 561musicfest.com. You can go to either one of them and they'll take you to the same place.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
It's going to have the lineup on there. It's going to have a little bit more of information, food truck information. We're going to have food trucks there. We're going to have the music. Of course, the beer and the booze is going to be flowing there at Matthews.
Yeah.
And
we're going to make some 561 Music shirts.
We're going to make some merch. There's going to be a couple of different tiers. I know for a fact your general admission tickets are going to be $10.
Yep.
There will be some other tiers that we're going to decide between now and Friday that we'll put on the website, and those tiers will be like, I don't want to say VIP because it's not like you get to go backstage per se or anything like that. But we're going to make some different tiers. It's going to include maybe instead of just a ticket and then maybe buying a shirt there, you can get like a small discount of some sort if you buy a ticket and shirt up front. And then when you show up that day and we scan your ticket in, we give you your shirt kind of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So anyways, there'll be a couple of little tiers like that and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you ready for the lineup?
I am, dude. I am.
All right, man. Everybody's been waiting for this.
Let them know.
Yeah, man. So in no particular order, and just so everybody knows, there's going to be two stages. So we're going to have a main stage, full bands, and then we're going to have kind of an acoustic solo and duo stage.
Yeah.
So in no particular order, not necessarily telling you what stage anybody's on. That's that's to get you there, and it'll be a big surprise when you get there. No particular order, we have Victoria Lee.
Yeah.
Joey Caldereo.
Hell yeah. We know how to say that now.
Yeah, we do now. Jacob Tacos.
Yeah, man.
Micah Scott.
Hell yeah.
John Leonard.
Yeah.
Sally Fox.
Yes, sir.
Dominic Delaney.
Yeah.
Josh Miles.
Yeah.
Alyssa Marie Coons.
Yeah.
Our very own Ben Childs.
That's me.
Yeah. We've got Fall Victim, Sandman Sleeps,
Yeah.
Jake Walden Band, Bryce Allen Band,
Yeah, man.
Butch and the Fat Dubes,
Yeah.
The Shake,
Yep.
the No Name Ska Band,
Whoop, whoop.
Sons of a Tradesman, Sierra Lane, and Spread the Dub. Now, if that's not one hell of a lineup, I don't know what is, man. Fuck that festival in Vegas. This is where people need to go. Screw that. This needs to become a meme, and this needs to go viral.
I agree, dude. You know what? We should make a thing where it looks like
we
that. But
totally need to do that.
Yeah.
So, guys, listen, this website's going to be up Friday. Hopefully, by the time you're listening to this, the website will be up. If for some reason it's not, and then maybe Saturday. But, I'm doing my best to get it up by Friday.
Yeah.
Tickets will be on sale. You can pre-buy your tickets. We've done everything we could to find a ticket site that doesn't rape you on the charges. So it's not like it's a $10 ticket, but you're paying $35 in service fees. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and if I've read everything correctly, it is a $1 service fee.
Yeah.
So if you're buying a $10 ticket, it's only going to cost you $11. Okay.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's not a
too
big
bad.
deal. Like I said, we're going to try to have some tiers on there. We may even have some merch on there at some point where you can just buy merch if you feel like buying some merch prior to, some T-shirts and stuff. You want to rock the festival T-shirts.
Yeah,
the
man.
T-shirts will have the date on it. It'll have Matthews. It'll have our podcast logo for the festival on the front. On the back, it'll have a list of all the bands playing. And this is going to be fun, man. I'm excited.
Me too. And, there are some people that didn't make the cut, but it wasn't, due to, it was just because there's so many good people down here. And I think the reason we initially started this podcast is because there are loads of good bands and musicians down here, and they deserve talking about and more exposure. And I got to say, we couldn't fit everyone in there. So, cross fingers, a bunch of people show up to this thing, and we can do another one. And we can have all the people on that didn't do the last one, That's the idea.
Yeah, at the end of the day, listen, this is episode, I think, 42, 43, something like that. So, we've already had 43 guests. By the time that festival rolls around, we're going to have more than 52 guests. It'll be over our 1 year mark, just over.
Yeah.
So there's no way. This was 20 acts, 20 bands, 20 people. As it is, that's a little tight. There's no way we could have gotten 50, 60 acts into this thing.
Exactly.
So just to let everybody know, if you didn't make the cut, it's not that we don't love you. We love each and every one of you. There will hopefully this is the first annual 561 Music Festival.
Well, you got kind of screwed on this one, didn't you? Because neither Killbillies nor Euphoria was playing.
Yeah, I'm in two bands and neither one of them made it, and I'm one of the hosts of the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
So let me just put it out there. If you didn't make the cut, you're not alone. Don't feel bad. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Just come, have a good time, enjoy yourselves. And listen, that being said, some of you guys may have noticed, maybe you haven't noticed, we've been doing a few occasionally little pop-up things where we do 3, 4, 5 bands in an evening, Average Joe's and Connolly's and places like that around town. So listen, if you didn't make the festival, hit us up. Let us know that you're wanting to come out and play something, and at some point we're probably going to start picking up and start doing those little pop-up things again here and there, maybe once every couple of months. So
totally. Killbillies has been really, really busy, which is part of the reason why we haven't done more, but the idea is to try and do one a month or so, isn't it? That's what we really want to do.
Something fun like that. So guys, get on the website, start getting your tickets. I'm going to assume I have to work it out with Matthews, but I'm going to assume there is a limit to the tickets just because there is a capacity to the venue.
Sure.
So make sure
I like the way you're thinking, man.
Yeah, just get in there, get your tickets, get them before they sell out.
Yep.
And I think this is going to be good, man.
So we've got a very interesting pod tonight. We've got Brad Brock, who is not only a very accomplished musician but also a fellow podcaster. How's it going?
Indeed, it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
Man, I'm so excited about this music festival. I'm gonna whatever I'm doing on April 2nd. It's now canceled, so I will be there.
Me too.
And hey, if you do decide to do VIP tickets, you put one aside for old Brad.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'll definitely get down on that.
We'll have to figure out what the VIP level is. Maybe it's Ben giving people shoulder massages or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
exactly.
I've been known to travel around with my own velvet rope.
Oh, there you go.
So I'll just have a VIP section just around myself.
There's that place across the road that when they do Bark Back, it's kind of like the green room. I wonder if we can use that and make that a VIP area or something.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know how they got that part. I'm gonna have to speak to the Spread the Dub guys about that.
Yeah, we'll work it out. We'll work something out. We'll definitely make a VIP of some sort.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Let's say by next week we will know what the VIP thing
Yes.
is. Yeah, there we
go.
So how are you doing, man?
I'm great, man. I'm so stoked that you guys have me out. I know we're kind of like doing a trade-off here. I'll be here this week, obviously. And then in 2 weeks' time, you guys will be coming into the lion's den, as we like to call it. Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to it, actually. It's going to... I've nearly done someone else's podcast one time, but that's going to be the first one other than this one I've done. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Wait
and it's
a
live,
minute.
too.
You've never done or been a guest on anybody else's podcast?
Nope.
You haven't either?
Never.
Oh my God. Virgins.
Exactly, yeah.
Not the virgins I was looking forward to, but I'll take what I can get these days. No, it's great. So we just moved into a new space. So, of course, our studio's in our home.
Right.
The old studio, we've renovated our garage. And I say renovated very lightly because it was basically just curtains around the interior, and then we just loaded it with junk that looked cool. It's a much cleaner space that we're in now.
Okay.
Less stuff to trip on and break.
Where is it? Port St. Lucie, right?
Port St. Lucie.
Yeah.
So
cool.
You'll be our first in-studio guest. We have our season 3 premiere next Wednesday.
Right.
And then you guys are our first guests.
That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Sweet.
Yeah, because we get like a day's grace in case we do something accidentally weird on this podcast, you know what I mean? But like, but on yours it's like live.
You cleared your schedule for tomorrow.
It's usually Ben. I'm just gonna say it's usually Ben.
Ben, accidentally weird child. So that's what they call me. So yeah, tell us, seeing as we're talking about it, tell us a little bit about Jams and Cocktails.
Yeah, Jams and Cocktails. In the beginning, Jams and Cocktails. No. So. I went to lunch with my sister as we do to kind of go over ideas and just catch up. And she mentioned to me that I should get into live streaming my shows, or she's like, Twitch is popping off, and you should get down on it. This is back in 2019, right?
Okay.
And I was like, okay, never heard of live streaming in my life.
Right.
Didn't know the first thing about it. So I did my first live stream, Facebook Live, with my phone on a stand and played some songs and took requests, and it was a lot of fun. And really, that just became the evolution. I didn't even know what a podcast was. I never listened to one in my life.
Yeah. My mum was hip to that way before I was. She was listening to podcasts so long ago.
Yeah.
She was like, there's these things called podcasts. You can download. At the time, it was to your iPod, you know?
Right.
Like back in the, that's why they called it. And like, obviously. And Mum was listening to all these different ones, and I kind of thought it was kind of a bit nerdy. I was like, okay, Mum, whatever. But like, here I am, 50 episodes later.
Right. The transition was easy for me, man, because like I love talk radio. Real radio is the big one here. But I would listen to that all the time because I used to like deliver pizzas before I knew how to make money playing music, as most of us go through that.
Sure. I'm still delivering pizzas.
I was so tired of Top 40 radio, and somebody was like, oh man, you got to check out talk radio.
Yeah.
And hooked ever since. It never gets boring.
Yep.
It never gets old or repetitive. So
what were some of your like favorite ones? I think the one that hooked me in first was Yeah Dude. Have you ever listened to that one?
No.
Oh, it's awesome. There's so many though. That's the problem. It's like you say a podcast. There's literally millions of them. What was some of the what was the podcast that you found yourself listening to? Would you say that kind of inspired you?
I mean, I feel like anybody that gets into podcasting has to say Joe Rogan. I felt, and for me, it wasn't so much the content because like he's great and he's provocative and it's an interesting listen and he's got great guests, but what did it for me was watching his podcast, and that's what like blew my mind.
Yeah, totally.
To be able to switch cameras during the show on YouTube, I was like, this is wild.
Yeah.
This is space age. So that kind of set me off on figuring out how to do that.
Right.
And once I figured that out, it went from my office in my house to then the dining room area. And then when Jordan, my lovely, wonderful girlfriend, was like, I can't have you in the dining room doing this every week anymore. She's like, so if you clear out the garage, you can have it. So we moved it out there, and we had our first 2 guests, and then COVID happened. It shut everything down.
Yeah.
And terrible for most people, me included, but it was great for my learning curve because then all of a sudden I had a ton of time to learn how to use my gear and get camera angles and be able to do multiple shots. And
I think for so many people, me included, what happened around the pandemic was just this kind of technological learning curve that's just like this.
Yes, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
So many video editors and music editors, I guess, or whatever you want to call them, producers, kind of came out of that whole COVID time period.
It was, in some ways, it's kind of like a COVID renaissance. And it's
just crazy weird. But.
It's right when you lock a bunch of creatives in their house, with Amazon still available. And that's what happened. I was just like, well, and luckily I had done a major buy on all the webcams that I use for jams and cocktails. So I had a ton of webcams.
Okay, cool.
And then all of a sudden webcams were like $300.
Yeah.
And you couldn't buy them anymore because everybody was remote. So thankfully I had those. But yeah, awesome. And a real good skill for podcasting that came out of that was up until that point, we'd never done any virtual guests, so it was always in person. So I was like, how do we do this? How do we integrate this? How do we still keep going? Because at this point I was committed to the every Wednesday live, 8 p.m. for eternity at that point. Yeah. And, so I figured out that Skype integrates with our software, and it was terrible. The first few interviews were awful. The quality was horrendous.
Right.
But, now we are able to get anybody on Earth and have high quality video and audio and interview people thousands of miles away.
Totally. We'd done a couple of Zoom ones, and we didn't do a bad job of it. But it's being the person who's on Zoom is incredibly boring. Yeah. You're like, so have you been have you been the guest in that situation? Do you remember that time when you were just going nuts, waiting and waiting, and eventually
it makes it for us, and this is something that I'd love to pick your brain about at some point, is it made it an editing nightmare for me. Having to go and then splice all that back in and splice the Zoom stuff in and everything. It was just terrible.
Yeah.
It was just a terrible experience. I'd like to just forget the whole thing.
My biggest thing with my remote guests, especially during, lockdown, was to try to make it as immersive as possible. So like, on our show, we do a lot of videos, and we do a lot of like graphics to go into our different segments and all that stuff. And the way that we send our feed to our Skype guests is they're visually watching what is being broadcast.
Oh, that's cool.
So they get to see the graphics, they can hear everything that's going on, and so it kind of brings them in. Yeah. But then, on the flip side of that, when it goes to their face and there's that little bit of delay and they're talking and they're just seeing themselves talk back. That was the only complaint that I got from anybody. It was like, this is very unnerving. And I was like, well, this is life now. This is how we're doing it.
There was the one time that we did it with me remote because I went to England. I was sitting in my dad's office. They live in the deepest, darkest countryside in the middle of nowhere. And it was like 3 a.m. Everyone was asleep apart from me. I was like desperately trying to stay awake in this like dark room, like and I was just they were setting up the band and everything. And when it's like 9 p.m. and all that's happening, and you're in the room with everyone, it just doesn't seem to take that long at all. But when you're like sitting in a really quiet room on your own in the dark, it feels like it takes like hours and hours and hours.
So what I'm hearing is Ben was in a dark dungeon in England.
There's many of those.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever been to England?
Oh, yes.
Oh, cool. Really?
Yes, I have.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I've some of my best friends live out there, so
sweet.
I had plans to go out there every 5th of November, but that life happened, and
sure. Remember the 5th of November.
Yeah, but I worked on cruise ships for years as an entertainer.
This was what I was literally gonna segue into right now, because someone told me that. Yeah, totally.
I'm in your mind, Ben.
There's a lot of parallels between you and I, Brad. It's just a fact.
It's like it's like your twins.
We're not identical.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah, with the cruises. I can't remember who it was who told me that is what. Maybe it was Zach. I can't remember. Could be. Someone told me that prior to coming here and doing music, you were on cruise ships. How long were you doing that, and how did you get into it?
First of all, the answer to that is too long.
Okay.
But no, I did it for about 6 years.
Right.
I worked predominantly with Holland America Line, but I did do 1 year on Disney Cruise Line.
Oh, well. And
I would have stayed there forever.
Right.
But they wanted a steel pan guy instead of a guitar player. And I was like,
right.
I get it. But yeah, I got to travel a lot with Holland America, and I really enjoyed it. But by the end, I was just burnt out. I would go home and sleep on my brother's couch and had nothing for 2 months, and then would go back and travel the world. And eventually after years of that, I was like, oh God, I need to reevaluate some things.
Sure.
But it was a blast. I got into it. I was living in Orlando with my band.
Right.
We had this great big wonderful house in Orlando with a big pool and a waterfall. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But there were 5 dudes in this house. And as we were getting older, we lived there for about 5 years.
What was the band, if you don't mind me interjecting?
It was just Brad Brock,
Right.
the Brad Brock Band.
Gotcha.
Whatever variation of that.
This is like a real world episode. There was 5 dudes living in a house with a
yeah.
pool and a waterfall.
Yeah, a
sounds
pool and a
awesome.
waterfall. It was great. But one by one, everybody started kind of like pairing up with, girlfriends and moving out and doing that. So it ended up just being me and the drummer, who was my best friend since childhood. And,
Right.
we were like looking to downsize. We were still going to roommate. And then I had an agent. I was working with T. Scorman Agency in Orlando.
Right.
And my agent was like, have you ever considered doing cruise ships?
Oh, right.
And I was like, I'd never really crossed my mind. He was like, well, you should. Because at the time I was working at the JW Marriott and the Ritz, and I was getting paid obscene amounts of money for very little effort. And
Solo stuff or
solo stuff, just by the pool, Jimmy Buffett all day. And I lost one of those gigs a week because they were just cutting back, and that was like $2,000 a month. And I was like, well, I can't afford this life anymore, so I need to figure something else out. And so they put me onto cruise ships. I did one week contract just to get my feet wet, no pun intended. Little pun intended.
If someone says no pun intended, the pun is always intended.
Always intended.
hopefully your feet did not get wet though.
Did not, thankfully. I was not on the Costa Concordia, but I was out there when it happened. Anyway, a story for another day, perhaps. So I went out there. I fell in love with it for 1 week, and I was like, great. If they want to offer me a contract, I'm in. Sold. And a week later, they were like, yep, we got you a 4-month contract for a little bit of Caribbean and then a whole lot of Europe. And I was like, let's do it. So I had to go and break the news to my roommate. I was like, so I'm going to get the hell out of here.
Gotta go.
Yeah.
And he was like, great, I'm going to pack and move to Boston. And so he did and got married. And now he's living a wonderful life with 2 beautiful children. And I think I'm the reason for that. So good for him.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so I did it. I went out and I did that contract. And, it's kind of like the hook that brings you back.
Right.
And, I did 4 months. I got to see all of the Caribbean as much as I care to. And then, Europe, Italy, we did Spain, we were Greece, all these just amazing places. And
how much do you get to get off the boat if you're working on the boat?
If you're a musician,
Yeah.
you basically are a royalty. You just have freedom for you.
Oh my
You are
God.
responsible only for
A couple shows a day or
couple
something.
shows a day, pool set maybe. And so tons of time off. Tons of time
I have
off.
a question. So I gave up drinking because if I start, I cannot stop. So my question is, did that ever rear its head as an issue, seeing as there's booze everywhere? all the time?
100%.
Yeah.
100% of the time, everyone. There was nobody on the ship that was sober. Probably at any point.
I believe that. Yeah.
Certainly in the entertainment area. You have some of the old school cats that are socking money away and have real things to do. So they'll be a little bit more, but when you're wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, you're
big
just
party.
And it doesn't help that in the crew bar, the beers are 80 cents
Oh man.
and mixed drinks are $1.
Right. Yeah.
And you never physically have any kind of money transaction.
Yeah.
they
It's
just-
all like your room key
Yep,
card.
they just you just tap your card, your room key, and it comes out of your paycheck. So
Yeah.
sometimes
so you don't
that-
even notice that, like what you're spending.
yeah
They
until
make it too
you
easy.
get your paycheck
And you go,
what?
Why did I only make
do?
$6?
I'll tell you, my last contract ever before I quit, my paycheck was negative. I had to pay them. I had to pay the crew office money so I could get my passport and leave.
Oh my god!
And that is how you do it, boys. But yeah, it was bad, and definitely, you know, as with anything or overdoing alcohol or anything really, like if you get depressed and then you're homesick, and you know, you have a relationship that goes awry, which happened.
I can imagine
every
that
time,
every cruise,
every contract, yeah, you know, and like, and you're so in close quarters with everybody you work with. You're working with them, you're partying with them, you're sleeping with them. You know, it's you know, and then you're breaking up and still being friends, and you have to go and have lunch in the same. You know, so it's really take an entire lifetime of experience and just really compress it down to.
Oh, wow.
We used to call it "Till Gangway Do Us Part." And, you know, and then you go off but it was, I wouldn't trade it for world. And I kept handwritten journals through the whole experience. So
really?
I maybe publish that one day. I'll have to change all the names for safety.
Protect the innocent.
Yeah. I even
or like publish it when you're like 95 or something.
Or dead.
Yeah.
That'll be fine too. I don't need to see what happens after that. But really, so it is fun for me to kind of go back, you know, because whenever you're digging for inspiration to write or anything like that, I am able to dig through all those things, because I was never more emotional in my life than working out there and meeting all these people. It's just serotonin overload, man. It was really, really great. And then just visiting. So coming to the point, England.
Yeah.
When I was working for Disney Cruise Line, I met a girl named Lucy, and was crazy about her, right?
Right.
And she's from Southampton.
Right, yeah.
And
that's basically so close to where my mum and dad live.
No kidding.
Yeah.
You guys might even know each other. I don't know. But you know, was crazy about this girl, and you know, we hung out, we hooked up a couple times. You know, she had a fiance back in England, and not to time you out, I'm so sorry, Lucy. But you know, she left, and I was like, what do I have to lose? I'm gonna chase after her.
Right.
And so I made all these plans. I had a buddy that lived in Camden Town, and I was like, hey man, I'm coming to stay with you. And he was like, bring a guitar.
Yeah.
And so I was like, great.
That's cool. Lived in Camden for a bit. That's crazy.
Right?
That's awesome.
So I was like, cool, let's do this. And then my contract ended 4 months later. And the steam from all this had kind of come down, and I had probably hooked up with some more people at this point. So here I had this trip planned to England to chase after a girl who was happily back with her fiance.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I have this ticket. I'm going to go anyway.
Yeah, man.
And it was incredible.
That's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So cool. You're living in Camden. I
did live in Camden. I just stayed there for a night one month.
Yeah. That's sort of what I meant. I don't know why I kept saying live. But yeah, I love Camden. I used to play the Underworld like all the time. And, you know, I don't know. I was in a punk band for a long time. So we were in Camden like every other week.
No kidding.
I love it around there.
My buddy was who I was staying with. He played his band. I got to see his band play at World's End.
Yeah, World's End Pub. That's what I was talking about. The Underworld is the one underneath.
Oh,
yeah,
I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went there. We went to Ronnie Scott's.
Yeah.
Right, Ronnie Scott's.
Yep.
And got to see some music there.
Yeah, sick.
There was a place right across from his flat called it was like the Golden Eagle, and it was a pub Thai restaurant, right?
Yeah.
And they had a little piano in the corner, and so one night we were, you know, we'd been drinking anyway, so we went over there, and the owner knew Tom, my friend, and was like, hey, why don't you guys play something? And so we did, and it was the coolest jam ever. Like, I was just doodling on the piano while he was jamming. He's a like world-class classical guitarist, but he also plays funk and everything else.
Yeah. So
we were just jamming and drank all night, and then wound up in London somewhere. We got on a tube and went, and I don't know, we wound up at some like Bahamas bar. Like, it was underground, and it was all like Bahamas flag on the wall, and it was all island music. And I was like, I've come home.
Yeah.
I've come home.
I'm on the cruise ship again.
Yeah. And So it was great. That was a great trip. And I did meet up with Lucy, and we had tea at 3
right, that's
in
great.
Piccadilly Circus.
Right, yeah.
And it was bonfire night.
Yeah.
And so we went and we watched the fireworks in some park. I can't even remember the name of the park. But
yeah, so I don't know if you know, Hector, but the 5th of November is the day when in England we set fireworks off. And it all comes from there was this guy called Guy Fawkes who tried to blow up Parliament, and there's this rhyme which goes remember the 5th of November.
Yeah,
gunpowder, treason and plot. Yeah. And he didn't blow it up, but it's kind of I think what happened with it was there was already some kind of weird pagan thing happening at that time of year, like Samhain or something like that, with like people burning huge pyres and stuff like that. And so the government sort of co-opted it, stuck an effigy of Guy Fawkes on the top of the fire, and made it about him. And so now every 5th of November we have Guy Fawkes night, bonfire night, where we put these we make these big fires and put a guy on the top of it.
That's just disturbing.
It's kind of disturbing, I'm not gonna lie, but a lot of fun though.
I'm
set off
sure,
loads of fireworks. Cool.
Yeah.
So was
awesome.
was that the night that the bonfire was that you were at?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I came back the very next year. My ship happened to be in port in Southampton on November 5th. And it was an overnight. So I was able to get off the ship and go out and hang out with Lucy. And make a long story short, her and I have become just great friends. And I even went to her wedding. Different guy. Thank God. This guy I actually liked, and he's super cool and treats her like gold, so that's important to me. Yeah, and it's all fine because I ended up meeting the love of my life, who is Jordan, a co-host of Jams and Cocktails.
Oh yeah, big up Jordan.
Yeah, so it's totally worth it, and Jordan actually came to that wedding with me.
Oh, neat.
And we were in Bath.
Yeah,
which is a really.
I used to busk in Bath all the time.
No
when
kidding!
I was with
all the little umbrellas and down the alleys and the Roman baths.
Yeah, and there's so much of that like neoclassical architecture. It's beautiful.
Yeah, we stayed in a hotel in Flume.
Right. Frome?
Frome, that's what it is. Yeah. Flume.
Frome is...
Isn't that the thing that you go down on a water slide?
Yeah. Frome is famous as being this kind of like sort of hippie, like out of the way kind of commune slightly type of place, you know? They have a lot of like kind of psytrance parties and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Frome. Yeah,
it was crazy. Like her wedding was, or her reception was at this like barn thing.
Neat.
And but they have like a weird sound ordinance there, so like she had like a silent disco for the reception.
Oh,
so
cool.
Everybody was just jamming out.
That's really cool.
It was so great.
You've been to some cool places in England. Frome is a cool place.
Right? It's cool. Yeah. And the best part, guys,
is the middle of nowhere. Frome.
It took forever to get there, and trains and planes and automobiles. And the coolest part was that we had the cool accents. Yeah. Everybody was like, "Whoa, where are you from?"
Yeah.
And I was like, from America. It was great. No, it was awesome. And on that same trip, a friend of mine lived in London. She's a world-class opera singer. Huh. And we went and got to hang out with her, and she cooked us dinner. And so it's really cool. Cruise ships was really an opportunity to meet people from all over the planet.
Yeah,
and it's like there's so many cool places that I could go today and have a room and have a tour guide and have a friend and Holland America, Dutch cruise line, many Dutch friends now. You know, we can go to Amsterdam or Rotterdam or all these really cool places and have friends. So cruise ships changed my life, made me way more cultured than I could have imagined.
It's a lot more of a positive kind of story than I was expecting. I was expecting it to be like more of the just like lonely and drinking too much side and less of the sort of, cultural exchange and knowing all these people around the world. It's actually awesome.
You have to find the balance because there is both of those things, and we could have a whole other show on the dark side of all of that. I look back on those times to draw inspiration for writing sad songs.
Sure.
But I really carry with me 100% of the time all these really great fibers that I was able to launch. Getting to meet these people, and getting to visit places that are third world, which we would consider third world, and just seeing that these people are just human beings surviving, going to work, raising their kids, eating their food, selling their Rolexes or Folexes, like they're doing their thing.
Yeah.
And like, if everybody got that perspective on the planet, if everybody realized that everybody's just doing their thing, there would be a crazy connection. And we're so close. We're so close.
It's true. I think that especially, with that whole kind of American exceptionalism thing, and people really genuinely thinking deep down that, Americans are different in some way, it's a shame, because really ultimately it's not true. Everyone's just sort of a person, and it's as simple as that. Yeah. And you can go anywhere in the world and meet complete assholes or super nice people.
Right.
It's like there's no huge difference between us out there. Not in my experience. I've done a lot of touring as well.
Sure.
A ton. And and what I found was just apart from language barrier, that it's pretty much the same deal everywhere you go.
I do have one language barrier story. It's very quick. It's not quick. No, I'll make it quick.
It can be as long as you want.
We had an overnight in St. Petersburg, Russia. Now, just to preface, you can't, as an American, or I think of any nationality, you can't just get off the ship in Russia and go do whatever you want. You have to be part of a tour.
Really?
And there's a Russian tour guide that takes you into the city, and you have to stay with them. Otherwise, you could be arrested.
Right. I wonder what they think you would do.
Who knows? Yeah. The Russians are weird, man.
Go check out the missiles.
But, like, what a cool city. So for the crew members, we get a special passport called a seaman's book.
Right.
And it's exactly as funny as it sounds.
I didn't want to go there, but okay then.
So we get a seaman's book. And it's a special passport, and you go through a different line, you get it stamped, and they just let us go do whatever we want.
Oh, sweet.
We go right out, you do your currency exchange, you get billions of rubles for your $10, and then you carry on out into the world. So went out, got on the train, went into St. Petersburg, had the time of my life.
Sick. I've always wanted to go to Russia. One place I've never been.
Right?
Yeah.
It was worth it. It was cool. We were out there all day, right? And then we partied all night, go back to the train station to get back to the port.
Right.
The train's shut down. And they had told us before we got off the ship, you have to be back over this bridge before a certain time. Otherwise, the bridge comes up and it doesn't go down until the morning.
Right.
And then you're stuck.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is the only route. I can't read any of the signs. Nothing makes sense. I was still carrying a BlackBerry at this point.
Right.
So, no iPhone, no Google for me, no service, and no one to talk to, nobody to ask. Every cab driver, I was just trying to explain I need to get back to the boat.
Yeah.
And one guy even tried calling somebody.
I was going to say, were you by yourself or did you have people?
I had one girl with me, and she didn't speak any Russian either.
Yeah.
Barely spoke English.
At least you had someone to sort of like be scared with.
Yes. Yes. So finally the guy was like, "Get in.
Right.
I take you."
Right.
Great. Driving forever. Pull up in front of this strip club.
Oh my God.
And he was like, 60 euros.
Yeah.
There's no way this was a 60 euro cab ride.
Sure.
And I was like, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Anything you want. I was like, I just need to get out of this car.
Yeah,
and so as we get out and he drives away, two other cabs pull up and more cruise ship people get out, looking as confused as anybody else.
That's so
funny.
And
apparently this is where they bring people who have no idea where they are or how to get to where they're going. And then somebody will eventually come and be like, so here we are. This black dude rolls up in this big van. Perfect English, definitely an American guy, expat for sure. And we were like, we just need to get back to the ship. He's like, I got you. And we all piled in, all of us piled into this van, and we got back to the ship. And
man, what a story!
It was, I was terrified But
I have been in that situation in a weird car driving somewhere you don't know where you're going. There's nothing scarier than that shit. Yeah, it's a horrible feeling.
It's like just that out of control feeling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it was cool. I'd go back. Russia was neat. I'm not sure what the political climate is there currently.
Right,
I don't maybe not recommend it at the moment, but it was fine back then when we went.
I've been close. I've been to like sort of a lot of countries in Eastern Europe, and I went to Serbia and Croatia and places like that, but never made it to Russia. One of these days we'll get over there. Thing is, when you start getting a little bit older, and things start, get responsibilities. Don't you? That's the problem. But so let's talk a little bit more about your original music and how you found yourself at the point you are today. Like, where did this all start?
Yeah,
music-wise.
I've been playing music forever. I think since I was 11.
Parents?
Yeah, my father was musical. My mother couldn't carry a tune in a bucket, but was wonderfully supportive.
Right.
My dad, I didn't really know him super well. He kind of dipped when I was really young, but I think it's that like nature versus nurture thing.
Sure.
So I just picked it up. There was no like formal training. I did like choir in school.
Okay.
But
it's actually pretty helpful, honestly.
I mean, and I had a very supportive teacher who was like, there's something here.
Right.
And would push me. The guitar thing happened because I did a talent show in middle school where I got up and I sang to a track and pretended to play a guitar that I had.
Yeah.
And I got ridiculed so hard by everyone at school for faking it that I went home and I was like, I don't know what we got to do, but I need to learn how to play guitar. And so I did,
like just to save face kind of thing.
I was like, I
went home and said, Mom,
prove it.
I don't want to be Milli Vanilli anymore.
I was like, I'm done. I need to learn. And I learned on this horrible, like mini classical guitar, terrible for my fingers.
Yeah.
And and as I mentioned, my mom and my stepdad, who would be my father, I would consider him. Was incredibly supportive. Managed my country band for years.
Oh, cool.
But like bought me anything I needed. He's like, let's get you a proper guitar. Let's get you set up. And I never took lessons. This was a time before YouTube, so I had books, chord books.
Yeah.
And then I had song books.
Yeah.
So I would just put the two together. I'd be like, G, there we go.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Like that's how it happened. But when you're young like that, you have nothing but time. You have nothing to do but sit and focus.
I still have some weird guitar quirks from learning stuff from books and misreading it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I play A minor like in diagonal instead of like properly, and the same thing with E. But I can do both now, back and forth. Obviously,
here's where these parallels are happening. It's on the same way, man. It wasn't until I got into a band with other people that were actually real musicians, where like I would like watch, because I got into my first country band when I was 14. And it was me and my best friend, Dan, drummer Dan, and his dad and his dad's friends. And so we had this big redneck line dance country band, right? And it was Brad Brock and the Renegades.
All right.
And so, man. And so watching these guys play, I was like, oh, that's how you do that? That's how you play a G chord? So I learned a lot. That was definitely where I was like, I'm sponging everything up. Yeah. And we played, that band lasted for years, and we played dance clubs all up and down Florida. So I guess I would say I probably cut my teeth in country music. So a lot of music that I wrote when I was younger was country and, wanted to be Garth Brooks. And, and then it just kind of evolved, like I grew up, I grew out of, liking country. Disturbed came out, changed my life. And just that kind of whole era of like early 2000s rock and roll, when rock and roll like made that massive resurgence for radio. That was top 40. In the early 2000s, like Buzz Bake Sale. I don't know, were you guys around for Buzz Bake Sale?
I had a printing business
know
back
about
in
it.
that
That's
day.
all I
had a printing business back then, and I would do like some light video editing and stuff, and so I printed a bunch of the VIP passes and stuff, and the press passes and everything for Buzz Bake Sale, and then they started getting me in. I think it was like the last 2 years they had it.
Wasn't it the King Crab Shack or something like that?
No, it was out at the fairgrounds. Well, it was out at Cruzan.
Yeah, whatever
it was called at the time, the amphitheater.
Coral Sky.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they called it the bake sale because it started out as a baker's dozen. It was 13 bands for $13.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I did a bunch of video stuff for them. I still have those old little mini video tapes of stuff where I
found a bunch of those.
I was right
like,
up at the
moving.
front. Yeah, it was fun, man.
Bake sale was great, and that's when rock and roll was like in the forefront still. I feel like that was the end, at least for now. I feel like it all comes in waves. But
the buzz was still on when I moved here, but then about a year and a half after that, it went off the air. Such a shame, because that was all I would listen to. I thought it was amazing. They played like Against Me, like in the middle of the day. They played like punk rock in the middle of the day. It's the best thing ever.
It was awesome. Nothing has come back. Of course, now we have streaming, platforms, and you can go find your own music. And I always tell people when they're like, "Oh, rock and roll's dead," I'm like, "No, you just need to look for it." Like, stop being lazy. The radio's dead. This is the new medium. You could find all this stuff.
The buzz is still around, right? It's just an internet station. Yeah, it's just streaming only. But same thing. Yeah, but they still play that kind of stuff, man.
I'd have to look into that. I did find like a mixtape or
dig it up.
CD of like my favorite songs from 2002, and I was like, I popped it in, and it still played amazingly.
That's awesome.
And I was like, wow, this takes me immediately back to that really formidable time.
Yeah, man. I got to do that. I got this big weird stack of burnt CDs that in my studio that just sits there like a little monument to the past. I should listen through it.
Get ready to blow your own mind, because you're gonna me and Jordan did this. We found a bunch of these CDs. We just sat and we cracked open a bottle of wine and we popped in one, like I would put in one of my CDs, many of them unlabeled, and then she would put in one of her mixtapes we just had stacks between the two of us. We just listened to the craziest mix of music you could possibly imagine, and it really is crazy, because when you're so used to hearing a track list, right? You listen to it nonstop when you made the CD. Yeah. And now flash forward 20 years and you put it back in, it's like, whoa, I'm back in that old S10.
You know exactly what the next song is. Yeah.
With the anti-skip in the CD player and the tape deck.
My wife has an iPod that we keep in the kitchen that we haven't put any new music on since we met in whenever that was, like 15 or it's between 15 and 20 years ago in England. And it's just got all this cool stuff on it, like Peanut Butter Wolf and all this weird kind of old hip hop and stuff, and like Mr. Scruff and all this kind of weird old hip hop and stuff, and then like a bunch of ska bands and things like that. All the stuff we were listening to when we were in our early 20s, and it's still there in the kitchen. And every now and again, I'll plug it in and just bop around the kitchen to it. It's great.
It's crazy, man. I've actually gone as far as kind of replicating some of those discs as playlist on Spotify, so I can go and reminisce without having to dig out that scratch CD.
Yeah, man.
And it's crazy.
So in its current incarnation as like a one-man band, how long have you been doing that?
So when I quit Ships, I quit music. I hung it up. I didn't want to do it anymore. I was burnt out. I certainly wasn't doing this show on there. I was just kind of troubadouring, in a lounge, playing guitar and singing Sweet Caroline.
Sure.
1,000 times a day, and so I was done.
It'll like slowly chip away at your soul.
It did. Yeah. It was crushing. Yeah. It wasn't chipping anymore. It was crushing. And so I quit, and I got a job at a restaurant, and I served tables for 2 years. I didn't touch an instrument. And then I realized that was even more crushing. Yeah. So it's like, I'm going to take the less crushing avenue. Yeah, and I got back into it, but I told myself, I was like, I didn't want to just play guitar and sing anymore. I needed to do something.
Sure.
So it started like I got a tambourine for my foot and just kind of like, oh, that's nice. I got the harmonizer for my voice. I was like, oh, I'm the Eagles. Yeah. And I was like, what else can I do? So I got a cajon and got a little rig that puts a kick drum on it. Yeah. So I was able to kind of do it like a doot dop and strum away, and it was great. And then I was like, so on and so forth. What else can I do? Yeah. Got a snare drum, got the octave pedal, and was messing around with bass lines. And then somebody suggested doing or trying out an electronic kit.
Yeah.
Because they saw how much stuff I was lugging around.
That's literally the one step I have not taken, because if I do the feet drums thing, I'm doing kick and snare and octave pedal, and it's quite similar to you, but then you've got this other layer where, because you've got like the samples with the hats on and stuff, so it actually sounds like a kit. You know what I mean? Yeah. Which is awesome.
So this current incarnation here is pretty much maxed out. Like I'm still trying to figure out what else I can add, but it's pretty maxed out. So it's Don't try me.
It's gonna be there next week.
So this is it's a 5-piece kit. So I have kick drum, snare, floor tom, crash, and a ride cymbal that I use as there's a pickup or a drum trigger actually drilled into my guitar. Yeah. And so I just kind of whack it with my ring finger while I'm strumming. Yeah. And that was kind of the last piece, because I was like, how can I keep that ride cymbal going, like to make it more natural? Yeah. And I figured out that's how I was able to do it, because currently the kick drum has the ride cymbal tied into it. So every time I hit the kick, a ride cymbal triggers also. Yeah. Same with the snare drum. There's a tambourine that triggers simultaneously. Yeah. So it just kind of like fills that out and makes the drum kit at least a little bit more legitimate,
like vibey sounding. Yeah. Like glued together a bit more. But we'll get into that when we take a look at your gear. I don't want to sort of like blow that spot up a little bit too much. But the thing I'm curious about is in terms of like original like material and stuff like that, how much songwriting are you doing these days?
You know, probably a hard stop in the last couple of years. I tend to write when I'm upset or depressed. Yeah. And honestly, I have not felt that way in many years now. The last record that I produced was called Once Upon a Bottle of Rum, and it was really kind of the collection of my experiences on my cruise ships. Okay. And
when did you do that?
2018. Okay. That record came out.
That's not that long ago.
Right. Yeah. It feels like so much longer. Yeah. But yeah, so a lot of those songs had been written years prior. And so I had just had the opportunity to kind of put it together. And,
is it on Spotify and stuff?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I have three albums on Spotify. The first is called Welcome to Hollywood, and that's a very angsty young version of me performing, but it's really cool because a lot of my friends are performing on it and playing instruments. The two records after that, I did all the instrumentation by myself, which is wildly lonely, but great as a perfectionist. Right. Yeah. So my second album came out in 2014, and that was called Songs About You and Every Other Girl. Yeah. And I would say that's probably my favorite of all the records. It was just produced in a way where everything just gelled really well. Yeah. The other records are kind of a hodgepodge of stuff.
I don't know if I've ever had that experience where it's gelled really well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And most of the things I've done are pretty much a hodgepodge of stuff.
Yep. So the latest one, Once Upon a Bottle of Rum, is like there's some trop rock in there. There's some good songwriter stuff. And it's just kind of peppered in together. Cool. Songs About You is a pretty straightforward pop rock album.
When having you on the podcast, when I think about you, think of you as being like a live performer, and I think about your podcast, and for some reason, and it's I don't know why, for some reason it hadn't occurred to me to like seek out and listen to your original music. I don't know why it didn't occur to me, but there's a ton of it, huh? I got to go and listen to it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. It's I don't know, man. I kind of, I don't have aspirations for rock stardom or anything like that. You know, that and I certainly wouldn't deny it if it came my way. But you know, I find my passions lie in presenting other people, kind of like what you guys are doing right now. You know, it's what Jams and Cocktails kind of became when I started having guests. You know, it started at the kitchen table playing little tabletop beer pong. talking about music and jamming out, and then it grew into like, well, these guys have such great stories. We never get to hear them.
Yeah.
Because, you get 15 minutes on a break to buy them a drink or put tip bucket, or how's it been? So you only get to know these artists through their music.
Well, what I think is really cool about, I'm really, the point of this saying this isn't to blow my own trumpet. It's just the cool thing about this sort of like podcast kind of explosion that we're in at the moment is that it's people deciding the media that they want to have. You know what I mean? Which is really awesome. And, you can get kind of pretentious talking about stuff like this, but it's cool. It's all.
It is cool.
Like if you want to know about something now, you just go and find a podcast about it. And then you get really in-depth knowledge about it, like immediately,
absolutely.
It is so great. Like now if you wanted to know about, the Florida music scene, go to any number of the podcasts we make and you can find out what, like, 5 of the biggest musicians in the area's names of their mums are.
Right. It's exactly right.
It's great.
It's so fun, man. Yeah. And for me personally, it was a great opportunity because we don't get to like hang out with each other, so it was an opportunity for me to invite my colleagues, and into my home, and we share some drinks and share some stories, and play some music. And that was really incredibly rewarding. We did that for, probably 50 weeks. You guys are coming up on that.
Yeah.
And then we switched gears a little bit because we definitely like just ran through everybody on the Treasure Coast in terms of entertainers, without getting a booking agent to like book them.
Yeah.
And then we started having them back doing other things. So we would like do challenges, we did the Death Nut Challenge as one of our things, and we invited some I forget who it was, one of our guests to come back and do it with us, so now we're kind of on the other end. We're inviting our previous guests back to come back and just do knucklehead stuff or just play games, and that's kind of where our show is. It's like a morning radio show, if you're familiar with that, where it's a little zany but a little informative.
Yeah.
And we still, have live music, or I'll go out to shows and film, and then we present that on our shows too. So, as far as me, like I've spent a lot of time playing live music. I've had a great time. I've played really cool shows. I played really bad ones. So this is like a new passion for me.
Tell me about it, dude.
My eyes light up. I feel like excited when I'm like, oh, it's podcast day.
Yeah, man.
I
feel the exact same way about it. So do you, Hector, right?
Never. No, it's cool. I mean, when Ben actually got approached by a radio station to do a radio show like Sundays for an hour or something like that. And at the time, it was really more of a plot to get him to pay for advertising, because it was like, hey, you can come do this for an hour, but it's going to cost $500 a week, or you can get $500 worth of advertising to cover it. So we were talking about it, and we said, well, why don't we start it out as we were talking about him starting it out as just a podcast or whatever, and then we started talking to Justin, who's got the school and everything, and he's got the facility to do the podcast, and then we all kind of started brainstorming. We said, well, why don't we just do it as a podcast first and see how it evolves? But the fact remains that, like, right from the get-go, from episode 1, we were doing it with the cameras and with everything. And so we had simultaneously the podcast, the audio version, and the video version on YouTube. Right. And we walked away from that experience, the first couple of episodes, going, all right, you know what? I like this. I don't think radio is for us.
Yeah, exactly.
What did I say? Radio's dead.
Yeah.
This is the future, man. And this is the future.
We did this, and we haven't looked back. I mean, there's a couple episodes that I think maybe 1 or 2 that Ben's missed for a reason or two or whatever, and then there's 1 or 2 that I've missed. But there's always been somebody here, and it's just been awesm. Like, we've had 40.
I'm incredibly proud of you guys. In full disclosure. I had when you guys started, I had some people come to me and be like, oh man, there's people like ripping off your podcast. I was like, how are they going to rip off my podcast? Nobody even knows about this. This is my secret. And when you guys debuted, I was like, it's so cool. Like, the dynamic's completely different. Between our shows,
that's
which you'll get to find out in 2 weeks.
I know, right?
He's gonna have us do like a hot dog eating contest or something stupid.
You'll get the pre-interview form this week to fill out
the waivers.
There may be some disclaimers and waivers, but no. Getting to listen to your shows, the very first one with Sierra Lane. I remember I was driving like long drive to Jacksonville and got to listen to it. And I was like, this is awesome because it's very, very traditional podcast that you guys are doing with video, which is great. And the truth is, we didn't start out as a podcast. We started out as a live stream, you know, and I realized, when people started calling it a podcast, I was like, oh, I should probably listen to a podcast and see what this even is.
Right. Yeah.
So it never even had roots. It always, in my mind, it was always morning radio show.
Yeah.
And so it always just kind of kept that flavor,
like a different vibe. Yeah. And that's it. I've watched a bunch of them. And you're right. It's a completely different vibe. I would have never. I only found out about it really when we started doing this because it's like, all of a sudden all your algorithms point you towards stuff like that, Yeah. And then I was like, oh, right, okay, this is a thing. Yeah, I hadn't known it was a thing prior to that, but it's because I wasn't looking for it. But as soon as like we started doing this and then it pinged up on the thing, I was like, oh, awesome. And exactly like you say, there's not really a
animal. There's a few of them around. We were talking about Drums and Rums earlier. Good podcast. Totally different animal from you. Totally different animal from us. I mean, there's plenty of room, for all these different podcasts.
Do you know Billy Hart? He plays in Old Habits, the hardcore band. He's this cool guy. Lives in Lake Worth, West Palm. Anyway, he watched ours, and I think now he's going to start one too. To be honest with you, I think there's the more the merrier.
Well, what's great is like you guys have had on guests that we've had. And it's interesting to hear the stories when they're, I don't know, conjured from somebody else, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Because it all in the way that you ask, and then, to hear the same stories that they told, like Leafy Green's perfect example, we had them on and then I got to hear, your interview with them, and they're very polished with what they say, and they're very calculated, which makes them a great brand, and they're just the sweetest people.
Oh, absolutely.
And but it was like, I know this story. I felt like I knew them, and I do know them now, but it's really interesting to see or hear the same story brought on by somebody else's perspective,
angle,
Absolutely. And I will listen to the same person be interviewed by a bunch of different people on, some of the really big podcasts. And exactly that. I love hear the different, you get the different facets for sure.
And when you start following a podcast or any kind of show, like you become attached to the hosts, and you become attached to their presentation of the subject matter, so like you. I don't know. It hits different, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you do get attached to the host. I think about that sometimes. And, like I've listened to like Marin talk about how it's weird that like millions of people know him really well, but he doesn't know any of them.
You're right.
You know what I mean? They like know like what his cats are called and what he had for breakfast and stuff like. And it is quite weird like that. But and obviously there's no comparison in terms of numbers of people that listen to it. But the reason I was thinking about it was because that's how I feel about him. I feel like I know him.
Right.
And like I like sent him an email and like almost immediately regretted it, because it's like, why do you want to read an email from me? But
but it's funny, man, because in a much larger sense, you do know him, I mean, it's really, it's tangible, like people are people, as we mentioned earlier, like they're just, they get up and they shit just like the rest of us, every morning. It's what happens. Some people maybe have a harder time with that, but like we all do the same things, and it is interesting, just like when musicians, when we somebody we've never seen before in our lives comes up and says, oh, or requests an original song. And you're like, I didn't think anybody was listening to anything I had to say or play.
Yeah, I love that when that happens.
It's just a great feeling and slightly weird at the same time.
Totally.
But
there's this awesome Scottish guy who always asks us to play this song we wrote called Invocation up when we play up in Stewart, and it always warms my heart. I love it too. And on the subject of original songs, why don't you go and play us a couple of songs?
I think I'll do that.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Start to feel just like I never met you. Though I've known you for 2,000 years or so. Asking questions that two strangers in a nightclub that we never thought we'd ever ask before. You pressed your lips against my lips. Now I'm seeing love for the first time. Seems no use inviting. There's a tide of flame igniting, and I'm basking in the uninvited glow. Feeling right, it must be wrong. But just to be love song. Feeling right, it must be wrong. But just two people in love song. Suddenly I can't deny you. You didn't know that you've been right here all along. Now, I've been drinking, but I'm thinking this just might be love. That makes me want to run. But her eyes still pierce me like a needle to a splinter. And it feels so good to get it out. Such a tasty little thing you concocted in this ballroom scene. And I wonder where she wants to go right now. Feeling right, it must be wrong. Just two people in love song. Right, it must be wrong. Just two people in love song. Feeling right, it must be wrong. Just to be in love song. Feeling right.
little song about loving somebody who just doesn't love you back the same way. Again, and amen. All right. Song's called Unrequited.
There's a tragic situation. Loving blind, loving blind. She don't see it out. Climb the mountains, put the signs up, everything. She pushes by me lines and doesn't leave my veil. This one-sided attraction is on cold. I can't feel my heartbeat anymore. It's amazing that after all this time, you're right, still I'm not nearby. There's a slight misunderstanding. Am I mistaken or will she take it? One more steps toward me and feels like forever. Will she be here to my side? I feel cold when blowing. She asks me more light. Oh, this one-sided attraction is on cold. I can't feel my heartbeat anymore. It's amazing that after all this time, you're out and I'm not nearby. Of her fingertips, wrap around her glass and bring it to her lips. It's a subtle observation I wish she would say one time about your place of mind. That would be mine. Oh, this one-sided attraction is on cold. I can't feel my own beat anymore. That after all this time, you're right, still I'm not nearby. This one-sided attraction is so cold. I can't be my own beat anymore. It's amazing that after all this time, you're right, still I'm not nearby.
This episode is brought to you by Oasis Root Coffee and Kava Lounge. It's at 185 East Indiantown Road, and it's in the Sea Grape Square, which is so where you have the US 1 and Indiantown Road, like sort of crossing there. You just take a left onto Indiantown Road, drive about like a quarter of a mile down, and then it's on your right before you get to alternate A1A. It's a cool spot. I go in there from time to time. I really like it in there. Jim, who runs the place, he's just got a great approach to it. So you go to some Kava places, and there's like a million different things you can get, and it's confusing and it's kind of dark, and some of them are a bit creepy. But this one is like.
But this one's light and airy and fun.
It is exactly that. Honestly, it's exactly that. And they have they have one Kava you can get. It is good and good quality, and they have one tea you can get, which is tasty and good quality, and you can mix it up and put different things in it and stuff like that, like people like to do. But honestly, Jim's idea was to just keep it simple and just have it like, so you go in there, you know what you're getting, it's clean, it's nice, and it's kind of has this sort of like, I don't know another way to describe it other than has kind of like a grown-up atmosphere, You feel like it feels like a coffee house. You feel like you can go in there and just have an intelligent conversation with someone, and I really like it. I go in there, few times a week and hang out, chat to the guys, and he loves the podcast. He's been really supportive of the podcast, and when I suggested that maybe he sponsor a couple of episodes, he jumped to the chance, and and not because for any other reason other than he wanted to help us support local music. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, he's a cool guy, and they're all really nice in there. So if you want to go and check out a neat Kava bar in Jupiter, go to Oasis Route.
Nice.
Yeah. The other sponsor we have is Handlebars Bar and Grill. Now, Handlebars used to be called Judy's. It's on US 1 in Tequesta, which is basically Jupiter. They're pretty much the same place. It's just right on the top of Jupiter. And got great beers on tap in there. They've got a really good food. Bernsey does a grand job in there. Bernsey's pretty much holding court in there these days. He's a really interesting guy. You should go and have a chat to him and eat some of his delicious food. So I'm involved with the place. I help them book the music. My father-in-law is the person who reopened the business, and so I help out with the music. We do a bike night every second Thursday. We had Moonshiners play the last one. It was a great success. It was a lot of fun, and then I do a jam on the fourth Sunday of every month, it's a good laugh. We've had a bunch of different people come through, and it's kind of a low key jam. I don't even have a full drum kit set up there. It's kind of a low key thing, but it's fun, we all sit out the front of the place and play songs together. And I hadn't done anything jam-like for a long time because, I play music for a living. So, I almost kind of felt like my jam days were in the past. But running a jam it's been great. I've met a whole bunch of people and I've reconnected with a whole bunch of people that I hadn't seen in a long time. And I've forgotten how fun they could be, quite honestly. So you should come check that out and just come and see Handlebars and have a drink there. It's an interesting place. There's a bunch of cool bikes out front if that's your kind of thing. And if it's not your kind of thing, doesn't matter either. The food's great and the beer's great. You should come down, check it out. Yeah, we got one other sponsor, don't we? You want to do that one?
Yeah. Harmony Management Group, and that's our good friend Mary. She basically she can do anything from light office things, filing, time management, things like that, and then she can do more in-depth business things, whether it's taxes, accounting, even booking and stuff. I mean, she does a lot of stuff for us band-wise. So, she knows the music business. She's a couple of, I think, one or two other people from that have been on the podcast have now picked her up, she's picked them up as clients, musicians and stuff. So she does a lot of that kind of stuff. And I believe she's even helping you with your taxes this year.
Tomorrow.
Very, very good.
So
fantastic.
So sorry.
Fantastic. So I mean, Mary is a great person. She's a very honest person. She knows what she's doing. So no task is too big or too small if it's a business task, especially if you're in the music industry, the arts and the music industry. Hit her up. Go to her website, harmonymanagementgroup.com. All her contact info is there. All her business offerings are there and stuff, and definitely hit her up, and she's good people. So.
Absolutely she is, yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So I forgot to, before we get to that actually, could you tell us a little bit about the two songs that you played?
Oh yeah. First one was called In a Love Song, and I wrote that many, many years ago about an ex-girlfriend's sister.
Right.
And nothing ever came of that, but it brought on that song. And yeah, it's just about hanging out with somebody you didn't think anything was going to happen, but then you have a couple drinks and sparks will start flying. The second song, on quite the contrary of the first one, is called Unrequited, and it's a bit about loving somebody or caring about somebody who just doesn't feel the same way.
I want to say the first 50 songs I wrote were about that.
See? And I guarantee there's more than just that one. That one's just the most obvious. But yeah, it's a common thread. I think we've all gone through it.
Absolutely.
And it's like my church for unrequited love.
Man.
There's probably nothing worse than that. Maybe it changes when you get a little older. I don't know, but man, when I was young, boy,
that ache,
and cruise ships didn't help.
All right, I can imagine.
You're just like, oh, yeah.
I'll tell
you. And then
you
have to stare them in the face for months.
I've mentioned it on the podcast before, but I mean, I don't think that ever changes. I've been married. I'll be married 25 years this year.
Wow! Congratulations.
And still, 99.9% of the time, I sit down to write a song and go, okay, what am I going to write about? And it's like being jilted or like lost love or whatever. I've been happily married for 25 years. So I don't know where that comes from.
That's what I'm saying, man.
It's just easy to write about that.
I sit down to write, and I'm like, I have nothing to write about because I'm not miserable.
Right? Yeah.
And
too happy.
Yeah. You know what? It's a good problem to have.
Right.
Do you find that because everyone's not the same in this regard? Do you find that you have to write about something real that's happened to you? Do you find that you always do that, or do you have some songs that are just about like you just made out of thin air?
There have definitely been songs that I just wrote or came to me in out of nowhere, but I've never like sat down, with like my pad and paper and said, I'm going to write a song today. I'm gonna sit down here and I'm gonna read this newspaper article or watch the television and I'm gonna write about that. There are some artists that can write like that. Yeah. Perfect example. I don't know if you guys know Johnny Depp, Prestige.
Yeah.
So we had him as a guest on our show, and we were talking about songwriting a little bit. And
he's got that great song about Florida, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got tons of songs about Florida. But he was explaining. He's like, yeah, man. He's like, I just write what I see. So like he'll like see something and he'll be like, oh, he'll take his pad out and write it down. Like I saw this today, and he creates these great story songs. Yeah. And then he colors them in with details that he makes up.
Right.
But yeah, I guess I find that when I write, I'm probably pulling from somewhere personal. I do go through my own journals sometimes when I feel like writing and crack open those wounds.
Yeah.
But I've never been one to like see something visually and go, I'm going to write about that. It's more like an internal thing.
I have tried. And no one should ever hear those songs. The ones that have worked for me, that mean a lot to me for sure.
Yeah.
So a question that I've asked everyone who's come on the show, and I nearly didn't ask you, is: do you practice at home?
Oh, never at home.
Right.
Always at the gig.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's quite a common answer.
Practice.
To be honest.
Yeah. I mean. I certainly practiced, especially for this rig. That required not just like learning a new song today, but like I had to learn how to play an instrument and learn how to like turn my brain off and on for different things. So that I couldn't just bring this out, and go for it. I actually had to practice. But I now that I do it all the time, I feel like it's more like muscle memory.
Right, yeah.
And even new songs, like I've been one that if I hear the song or I know it in my head, as long as I have the lyrics, because I can't remember lyrics. So I'll pull up the lyrics and just play, and I'm able to do that even with all these parts. But yeah, I don't practice. Maybe I'll run through a song that I want to try out, on the acoustic before I leave.
Surprisingly common answer though is, I play too much, so I practice at the gig.
Yeah. And then this, trying to say, now if I had a second setup that was just set up at home all the time, I'd be on it all the time learning new things.
I've been thinking about trying to figure that out at my house. Just have one where I could just sit down. Yeah.
I always say my day off is any day that I don't have to pull the shit out of the van.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And if I don't have to do that, I don't care if I'm mowing the grass or running errands or doing my taxes.
Yeah.
That's a day off. So no, I don't practice.
Right. Yeah. And I think if you play as much as you do, then that's almost a ubiquitous answer. Not that many people who play as much as we do.
Right.
But I have been lately, but I've been through a bunch of stuff lately the last couple of years with kind of cleaning my acts up and stuff, and it was just something I wanted to do for myself, so I've been in a bit of a different headspace with it. But prior to that, I wasn't doing just like you said, kind of at the gig.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's not really songs that I would practice. It would be more like integrating gear, so like if I got a new piece or added a new piece to the drums, or I did have to practice when I got the ride cymbal thing for my guitar, which we'll talk about. Like I had to sit and practice that, or when I added the floor tom. I tried that at a gig just willy-nilly, and it was horrendous. I was like, woo, gonna unplug that bad boy and not play that for the rest of the night.
That's happened to me a million times. All right, let's get on to your gear. Let's have a look at, I think Justin's got some stuff he can bring up on the screen here. Tell us a little bit about what that picture is.
I do want to say it is nice that you guys have a producer. That is fantastic.
Big up, Justin.
Yeah, I usually have to do this stuff, and I'm not very good, but Justin's on it.
You can't have him. He's ours.
Fair enough.
Well, that might be Justin's decision. Careful.
Never.
It's never my checkbook out.
It's never Justin's decision. So this picture I actually took just a little while ago.
Yeah.
So this is your setup that you actually just played with now.
Yep. Yeah. So the mixer, no matter where I play, like I always bring my mixer because it even if I'm not using the mix for the mains, or there's a sound guy, like I use it as my in-ears mixer.
Yeah.
Because I found that no sound guy is able to like mix my ears the way that I like. So I might as well just bring my own and play what I'm used to. So I always bring that no matter what. The kick drum is it's actually Questlove's pocket kick with a mesh beater head. And I trigger it because it's consistent. The whole set, the whole kit is electronic because I could just produce a very consistent sound always in any room, and never have to worry about being too loud or too soft or whatever.
So this might be a dumb question, but why the analog kick drum with a trigger rather than just having a kick head from an electronic kit? Obviously, the kick head would take less space, the electronic one. So I'm just curious why you went this route.
Yeah. So the doing it this way was really for aesthetic purposes.
Gotcha.
Just because a lot of times people have no idea what I'm actually doing, and it looks like a spaceship as it is.
Yeah.
So to just add that
certain comfort level for the audience.
Like people look at it and go, "That's a kick drum." You don't have to know what a kick drum is. You've never seen a drum set in your life. It's like built into human DNA. So that kind of makes it real.
Which I think is sensible, because there's definitely people want you to not be doing it almost. Like I've had people come up to, I've had to, even after, and I was talking to you about this earlier, even after explaining it to them, from beginning to end, exactly what I'm doing and all the bells and whistles and things that I'm having to push and play, they'll still be like, well, we just want to hear you. And I'm like, it is just me. It is me. It is me. Yeah,
my favorite is when people come up and they're like, well, what tracks do you use? And I'm like, no, there's no tracks here, man. I was like, it's all mechanical. It's all live. And I like showing people like behind, because you could see all the pedals, and they, some of the pedals are drumsticks, so like it makes it real. And I have been working on an acoustic version of this setup. Cool. It's not coming along real well, so it needs quite a bit of tweaking.
I tell you what, you should borrow someone's farmer like drum set, because like the way that he put it together, this guy, I think I'm not
I've
sure.
seen them. Yeah, it's like in a box.
You should just take like a bunch of pictures inside and out.
It's crazy.
Build one like that.
But yeah. So the drum kit's pretty intricate. There's nothing special about the pedals. They're just kick drum pedals, and I put Velcro on them, and they stick to the carpet.
Nice,
and they don't go anywhere. So that's pretty fun. Yeah, it was the separation between using my arms and my legs was really what made that it all work. Yeah, if you can figure out how to do that, anybody could do this.
The thing on the guitar with the cymbal is that's the pièce de résistance for me. Like that's just so interesting.
It's like, I don't know, it's like the syrup on the pancakes, man.
Yeah,
it just makes it all come together. And it's the one thing that I could keep driving when everything else is doing its thing, you know, like a real drum kit. You know, you're always got the ride, somebody on the ride or the hi-hat.
Yeah.
You know, so I was like, that's
when you were playing, I kept hearing the ride, and I couldn't figure out where it was coming from, and it took me a second to realize that you were tapping on a trigger that was built into the guitar.
And let me tell you, like, I tried a bunch of different ways. I actually had a ride cymbal that was just super close to me while I was playing, and I was trying to hit it with a ring. I even tried to like figure out how to put like a stick in a sweatband. And
remember that guy, Jason? I can't remember.
Cardinal.
Yeah.
Jason
remember
Cardinal.
He used to do that with the.
Yeah. He was great, man. Yeah. He was definitely somebody I looked at when I started looking into doing electronic drums, because there was nobody doing it better than Jason when he was here.
Yeah, he was killing it.
And
he's still at it, I assume.
Yeah, and I was like, well, if he's doing that, I have to do it bigger.
right.
So I added more pieces.
Yeah.
But yeah, that definitely was the icing on the cake for the drums. And now I'm trying to figure out how I could put a little rototom rack and do drum fills. I don't know. But yeah, so that's the drums.
Yeah, neat. And here we have a picture of your amp rig there. Is that an iPad?
It is an iPad, yeah.
Yeah, cool. And this is just what you're running your guitar through the iPad and a couple of pedals too.
Yeah.
And you got an AB box there too. What's the AB box do?
So I found that the octave pedal colors the guitar a little weird.
Yeah.
So that there's a noticeable difference in the guitar tone when the pedal is off and on.
Yeah.
And I don't always use the bass pedal. So I just use it's really over the top way of doing this, but so I use the AB box so that it's a clean guitar signal going into the harmonizer and then into the iPad.
Right on. Okay. Yeah.
And then the bass has its own guitar signal to process to generate the octaves down.
So you're absolutely right about the OC5. I have noticed that just lately, because for a while I was using an Electro Harmonics octave pedal, and one of those little submarine pickups, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I was doing it like that, which has worked great, except the submarine pickups are a little flimsy and it's starting to fall apart, and it was like crackling, stuff like that. So I just got done in with it, and I went back to the OC5, and I have noticed it does color it a little bit. Yeah,
it does, and it was enough for me because I use in-ear monitors. So it was enough for me. Nobody listening probably could notice, but like I was in there, like it's just in my head, and I was like, it doesn't color it in a good way. It's not like it makes it better.
It makes it kind of a bit like more brittle or something.
I can't even explain it honestly because I haven't heard it in ages because I've had that AB box for
gotcha.
ever.
Yeah.
And then
we shouldn't talk smack about Boss because maybe one day they'll
it's true.
Sponsor the show.
But let me tell you what, the OC5 does exactly what it says it does, and it does it very, very well. And then I use Amplitube to do an amp modeler because I already have enough shit to carry around.
Yeah.
And on there I just run an overdrive pedal. It's some abomination of the Ibanez Tube Screamer.
Right.
But it's really nice. I have a wah pedal I never ever use on there. I have a delay, and then I use a compressor just to kind of add a little bit of oomph to the clean.
Okay.
To the clean sound.
Sure.
What do you use to trigger the digital pedals on the iPad? You just literally tap them with your hand, or?
No, I have a Blue board. iRig makes a Bluetooth pedal board.
Okay.
And it's pretty cool. So you could set it up to where the pedals, it comes with 4 buttons, and you can assign them to whatever effects
there
you
it
want.
is. Look, yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
yeah.
And they actually have plugins for expression pedals so that you can actually control the wah and do everything. And it's pretty fancy if you're really trying to go light. And what's really cool about Amplitude is like if you want to try out different effects before you buy them, you can get a real gist of what it's probably going to sound like, and before you go out and put together this pedal board and you never use half of it.
I remember that company's been around for just donkeys. I remember having an Amplitude plug-in in Logic in like 2001.
How long did you say they've been around?
Donkey's years, my
yeah,
friend.
donkey's years. I thought that's what you said.
Donkey's years.
I thought, that's a interesting phrase.
And other English colloquialisms from Ben Childs.
Welcome to 561 English.
Class is in session.
Yeah, absolutely. So the last thing we do is we talk about what gigs have you got coming up? So anything you want to shout out?
All right, yeah. So this is dropping on Friday, right?
Yeah,
so,
dropping on Friday. Yeah,
like Thursday at midnight.
Thursday at midnight. So
perfect.
So whatever Friday, Saturday, Sunday gigs you have.
So at 9:00 today on Friday, I'll be at the Vine and Barley in Port St. Lucie.
Okay.
Super cool wine and beer bar. I'll be out on the patio. Saturday afternoon, I'll be at Costa Desta Resort up in Vero Beach. That's Gloria Stefan's beach resort. So I'll be there from 2 to 5. Sunday, I'll be at Cork in Hope Sound. So
I was meant to play there this Sunday, but it got rained down. Sucks.
It did rain this Sunday.
Yeah, it was meant to be this huge storm. Actually, ended up not being that bad in Hope Sound, which was kind of a bummer. But
it was crazy. It was like because my kid got canceled as well,
right?
In Stewart, but it was like this one massive band of rain that came over and it ruined everything.
Yeah.
It was kind of nice. Like I was telling you guys, I just moved into a new place, so it was nice to have a whole day to just unpack.
Right. Yeah.
So much stuff.
Actually, it worked out kind of strangely good for me too because we did a double last Saturday and I was exhausted on Sunday, like unbelievably tired. Yeah. I got Cork Sunday, so I'll make up for your lost one. Cork is a cool place, a really cool brunch place. Yeah, it is. Super early, but it's nice. I'll be there 11:30 to 3:30ish. Yeah. However that pans out. And then rounding out my week, I'll be at the Square Grouper just up the street from here in Jupiter. Cool. Nice. On Monday. Right on, man. You play Square Grouper on Monday. That's a cool gig to have on a Monday. That's great. Yeah. It's hit or miss. Sometimes it's a lot of fun. Sometimes it's boring. Right. But it's always nice to play on a nice stage. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, we do it every other Saturday from 3 to 6. We were in there. Nice. Yeah. All right. So what have we got going on? Let me have a look.
Friday at 9 p.m. we are at the South Florida Fair.
No, that's right.
Yeah. Nice.
Should be fun.
Yeah, the community stage, which I think is the one out in the open there, kind of in the fairway there or something.
Okay. I've only been to the fair once before when I was playing, so I didn't really...
the two big stages they have the community stage, they have the Coca-Cola stage. The Coca-Cola stage is a bigger stage, but it's inside a tent off to like the side, so you really have to know it's there and like seek out the people that are playing. Gotcha. The community stage is a little bit smaller, but still a very nice stage, nice sound system, everything, and it's kind of more in the fairway as people are walking. It's just there with seats out in the open. And everything. So we'll be playing for a pretty good crowd, weather permitting and everything.
Yeah, rock on.
So that'll be Friday night, and then Saturday we are at our home away from home at Patty Mac's.
Yeah, that's it. And earlier in the day, James and I are playing the Square Grouper.
Okay. Duo Square Grouper. Yeah.
So Square Grouper 3 to 6, and then Patty Mac's.
And Hugh just posted something about Patty Mac's. He was doing like a renovation, and it looks like it's either done or very close to being done, which is like these sliding doors and stuff over by the bar area. Yeah. So that should be fun.
Absolutely. And actually, I was on the phone with Hugh today, and did
you apologize for New Year's Eve?
Jeez. So I had the dreaded lurgy. I had COVID on New Year's Eve, and I had to go. So Hector and James just managed to pull something out of their ass and do it without me.
And when he says our ass, that's pretty accurate. Thankfully, Sally Fox came in, and she was going to play a couple of tunes with us, and ended up playing like 2 whole sets with us, and saved the day.
Yeah. Big ups, Sally. Thanks so much.
Huge big ups to Sally.
Yeah.
She could play with us anytime she wants.
Yeah, totally. But, outside that, so Hugh was saying that he wants to expand Paddy's Day and have some more people play some more Irish music in between our sets. So if you are if you're out there and you play Irish music and you aren't already tied into something or other, or you have a free slot, please get in touch with me, either through any of the podcast channels or just, get in touch with me on and in my socials about playing at Paddy Mac's on St. Patrick's Day, because I'm trying to drum up a little bit more music. Because what happens at Paddy Mac's for St. Patrick's Day is we play the whole day, basically.
Yeah, like 12 hours.
Yeah, and it's really fun, and I love it, and it's great. But I think this year we're going to spice it up a little bit and have a few people play in our breaks. So if anyone's out there and they want to play some Irish music, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. That's that.
You can reach Ben at eHarmony. No.
Yeah, it's not too hard to reach me. I'm obsessed with social media, so just find me on Facebook.
OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Check those emails every day.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, thanks so much, Brad.
It's nice, really, really a pleasure. I appreciate you guys inviting me to come and hang out. I feel like I'm on my press tour for Jams and Cocktails. Because I just on Monday, I was with Paul Robertson on the Drums and Rums podcast.
Awesome.
We were talking about it. So yeah, I guess my last shameless plug, Jams and Cocktails Season 3, live 8 p.m. Facebook and YouTube. This Wednesday night, this coming Wednesday, January 26th. Oh my God, we're already the end of January.
Yep.
And then the very next week, the Killbillies, our first in-studio guest for Season 3.
Hell yeah,
Very,
man.
very excited to have you guys. So
Awesome,
thank you again for having me.
You're making me have to step up our merch, our giveaways.
Yeah,
game.
man. We need some swag, dude.
We need some swag, man. You came in here with all your swag, making me feel all bad about having no swag.
Yeah, I gotta say thanks for doing that, because now we'll get some.
Yeah, see?
We'll have some.
Fire.
We'll have some by the time we get to your show.
Love it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Peace out.
All right, thanks, guys.